a couple of people are still signing in, so I like to give a little bit of grace and give everyone a minute. Like I literally, while I was saying that, I just saw another 3 or 4 people sign in. So we're gonna hang tight for just a minute. But again, I'm looking at a bunch of names on here. I won't start calling them out, but I'd love for you guys to hop over to the chat and let us know who you are. We really appreciate that. But we've got an exciting show for you here today. I'll go ahead and introduce us, and then we'll get the slides up here in a second and get rocking and rolling. But uh, some of you have probably met me before. My name's Mark Cerniglia. I'm the owner and founder of Spotlight Branding. For those that don't know, we are a content marketing agency. So we focus specifically on content marketing. That's kind of our practice area, so to speak. And we also focus on doing content marketing specifically for law firms. There's a lot of principles that apply to more than just law firms. So even if you're not a law firm today, there's probably going to be some value here for you. But we've absolutely designed our strategies and our services and today's presentation around what works for law firms. Now, that said, it's important to know that today's presentation is not a workshop all about how Spotlight Branding can help you. Quite the opposite. What we've actually done today, and I'm really excited about this, we've actually never done this before in a webinar. So this is first time. This is really exciting. We are lifting the hood, and we are going to share with all of you exactly how to do content marketing for yourself by showing you what we do. Okay. And so if you're here today, hopefully what you're going to learn is some good strategy, but also how you can go and do this stuff yourself if you want to. Now, obviously, if you don't want to do some of this stuff yourself, there's certainly companies like ours that are happy to do it. We'd love to do it for you. But our goal of today is to give you some very basic steps that you can take on how you can do a lot of your own content marketing, or whether you're going to do it yourself or hire a company. I think we're also going to give you a little bit of strategy. We're going to mostly focus on execution and how to get this done, but I think we'll tease a little bit of strategy. So that was a long build-up to ultimately introduce Fanny Cohen, who's here today. And for those of you that don't know, the reason she's here today is because she is actually the person in charge of all of the operations in terms of providing services to Spotlight Branding clients. So this is the expert within Spotlight Branding on everything we're talking about. So Fanny, is this technically your webinar debut?
It is. It is. I'm excited to share all my secrets and take everybody to the next level with their content marketing, honestly.
Okay. I'm curious to know, do we have, this is going to sound like a really random question, but do we have anyone in the audience that speaks French? If you do, drop it in the chat, and Fanny would love to drop some French in the middle of the presentation. Where were you born, Fanny?
Just outside of Paris, actually, like about 45 minutes.
Yeah, look, you're already saying Paris. You're not even saying it right.
Right. But, no, I mean, right. And yeah, I love, this is one of my little, nugget of thing that I love doing when I'm hiring people is like when they say they speak French, I actually try to see if they do speak French. Yeah. Did you lie on your resume?
Yeah, exactly. All right, no French takers in the chat. That's fine. Just have a little fun before we dive in. But like I said, got a great presentation for you. Jana, go ahead and get the slides up. Again, if you just joined us, feel free to drop your location and what your practice focuses on in the chat. We always enjoy hearing from you. Lisa, thanks for chiming in the chat. I promise you, Lisa and Megan are not the only people here. So I won't start calling out names, but I'd love for a few more people to chime in there and let us know who you are and what you focus on. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive into the next slide. I already kind of introduced what we're talking about today. I guess I should have mentioned, we're going to talk about, 5 areas, right? We're going to talk about social media, blogging, video, more specifically video FAQs. And we're going to talk to you guys about email newsletters. So that's 4, I guess. We're going to maybe spend about 8 minutes on each, something like that. And kind of tell you guys, again, like I said, how to DIY this. I'm going to hand over to Fanny here in a second, but basically our format for this is that for each one of these areas of content marketing, we're going to give you the 3 to 5 steps that we think are kind of the order to do this in. And then we've also got screenshots for almost everything we're talking about today. So we're actually going to give you visuals of kind of exactly how to do this. So Fanny, do we want to talk about each 4 of these and then show, or do we want to jump right into the screenshots? What do you want to do?
I think as a preface, we can just say, obviously, we've kind of made it as simple as it gets in terms of steps. It's for everybody to just think, oh, this is simple, I can get it done myself. That's really the point. So I think now that you've looked at those 4 steps, we can absolutely just go into.
Let me get, yeah. No, but I just let me give some quick context for these steps, and then I'm going to let you explain the screenshots. I think that's a good way to go. So real quick, if we were to boil down social media for you guys and how to kind of DIY this, there's 4 steps, but the first one I think is the really unique one, and that first one is to create a blueprint. And we're going to explain what that blueprint is here in a second. We're actually going to show you an example of the blueprint we use. But in short, we're encouraging you guys to create some sort of template and plan that you're going to use on repeat. That really is the hack for social media for a small business, or even especially a small law firm, is to kind of create a framework, or in this case, we call it a blueprint that you'll kind of use on repeat. Then there's creating captions, which is the actual text. And then there's creating graphics, which is the visual component of your social media post. And then, of course, there's scheduling it and publishing it. So we're going to kind of break these 4 steps down for you guys and show you exactly how we do each one. And we're going to do that in about 6 or 7 minutes. I'm going to hand it over to Fanny to walk you through that. I'll chime in. And if you have any questions about social media as we're going, like I said, please go ahead and drop it in the chat. All right, so Fanny, it's all you, and let's talk about creating a blueprint, right? And I think we have a slide for that. Yes,
Jenna, if you don't mind. Thank you. Okay, so in that top corner on the left, you can see what we mean by blueprints. It can be extremely simple. Basically, what you're going to do is in one given month, or whatever you decide to choose your timeline is, or if you want to do a blueprint every week, if you want to do a blueprint every quarter, every month, that's really up to you. What we do is usually we do it monthly. And we basically choose, depending on, the amount of content that we want to put out, we basically choose between 10 and 20 posts that are going to be, talking about certain topics. So these topics are the elements or the key ingredients to that blueprint. Here you can see that we have, weekly, we're going to talk about some type of newsletter information. Then weekly, we're also going to talk about a free resource download. That's something that we love. It's a lead magnet. We think it's super important for people to kind of get to know what you do through this type of elements. And then we have 3 blogs, 3 CTAs, which are basically just, promotional posts, making sure people know.
CTA stands for call to action, for those that don't know. We're going to show a visual example of these in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, CTA stands for call to action.
Correct. Sorry, I'm so used to CTA that I don't even. Yeah, CTA is call to action, and just what it is in our blueprint is usually a way to contact you, a way to take people to your website or some place where you can actually connect with them. Then you have video, quotes, and testimonials. So the one thing that I will say is obviously your blueprint can look something completely different than that. That is just the choice that we have for that particular client.
If I can add real quick, what you're basically doing with the blueprint, the key to a blueprint, and these are just, we've identified 5 types here. Okay, blog, CTA, video, quotes, and testimonials. There's more than that. Okay, website pages could be one. Third-party articles could be another, where you find an article from, Forbes.com or Huffington Post or something like that you think would be interesting to your audience. But what you're doing here with a blueprint is you're deciding what kinds of things you want to post about, and you're creating categories for yourself. So you could even come up with your own categories. But in here, what we're saying in this blueprint is whatever blogs we've written, we want to have at least 3 social media posts about blogs. Whatever calls to action we're going to use, pages on the website, contact us kind of thing, we want to have 3 of those. If this business has video, we want to share at least 2 of those videos on social media. And to go back to Fanny's point earlier, this might be weekly, this might be monthly, but you're basically deciding a cadence, and then you're basically deciding a framework by typing your post, by categorizing your post types. So then, and Fanny's going to talk about this here in a second, but now what happens, whether it's every week or every month, and you sit down to create your social media content, you're basically just filling in these categories you've created for yourself. Right, Fanny?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. And I'll give you a little bonus point, or like a little strategy part of things, is what we call the pie, which is, we're trying to strike a balance between a certain type of post, depending on what your goals are and what you want to share. But basically what we call the pie is, the acronym PIE, and P is for promotional, I is for inspirational, and E for educational. So what you want to do when you're creating your blueprint is you want to kind of keep those three elements in mind and just be like, okay, how can I inspire other people? And that might be, quotes or success stories, or holidays, even if your community cares about a certain holiday, team stories. So that's the inspirational part. Promotional is those CTAs that we were talking about, but also those those pages on the website that are really important to you. And then educational is really pure value added, your blogs, your videos, you're answering common questions, things that people are really wondering about your law firm. So yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, Mark, as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
No, I love it. So let's talk about step 2 here, right? Which is creating captions. So that's just the fancy term for creating the text to accompany your post, or really better yet, you're just deciding what you're actually going to post about. So, for example, I know what the first one is. Like, the first one's a quote. So thinking about how you would do this if you're doing this yourself, you create your blueprint. You can see our blueprint on the top left has 2 quotes. So what are you going to do? You're going to go out and find quotes that you think would be interesting to your audience, if quotes are something you want to do on social media. What we've then done here under step 2 is we've given you an example of a quote we might use. And you're going to see how this flows into the next step, where we actually create graphics to go with this. But we've essentially taken our blueprint, we found a quote to go with it. Fanny, what these other 2 caption examples here, 8/21 and 8/26, and those are just dates, I think, right? So we're just kind of showing an example of how you also might go in and pre-date your post, so you've got kind of a calendar. But what are these 2 examples in terms of the blueprint?
Yeah, so August 21st would be a free resource. So you can see it's one of the weekly posts for us in that particular blueprint. But what it is basically just giving away some type of information through a lead magnet. So that's what we call the free resource. It's on their website. It just leads people and gets them to go and download that free resource. And then August 26th is a blog.
Okay, great. And so using that example there at the end, that could be an excerpt from the blog, or it could just be some sort of 1-sentence description about the blog, which is kind of what this one looks like, right? Are your loved ones actually prepared to manage the inheritance you plan to leave them? I'm guessing that's going to link to a blog post all about how inheritance works for your loved ones and what they need to do to be prepared, right? Yeah. So, I think it's important to mention, like we have in this blueprint example here on the top left, we have 3 next to the word blog. That could mean 2 different things. That could mean sharing 3 different blogs on social media, but it could also mean sharing this same blog 3 different times. In theory, you could take the exact text that's here on the 8/26 caption, and you could just publish that multiple times. But what you're probably more likely to do, and is better to do, is you could create a different caption, right? You could have 3 different social media posts for that blog and 3 different captions. And so always remember that, like, one blog post can be 3, 4, 5, 6 social media posts. Okay. And that's a great little tip to get more mileage out of your content. But basically create your blueprint, then decide what you're filling it in with, what quotes you're going to use, what blogs you're going to use, what pages from your website you want to share, what resources you want to use. We didn't do a testimony example here. We didn't do a video example, but it's the same concept. If your blueprint calls for a few videos, go find some videos you've already created. If you don't have video, then obviously you're not going to put that in your blueprint. But let's say we've got these 3 examples now. We've created these captions. The next part is to create kind of some sort of visual to go with it. So Fanny, these are the graphics from those 3 examples, correct?
Yeah, there are 3 static graphics. Obviously, if you're super into video, you can make your own little animated graphics as well. I mean, I have a list of tools that I can give you if you guys are interested in figuring that out, and you can ask that in the chat if you want some ideas of where to get graphics like this done. But basically, yeah, you have the first one. That's the blog that we were seeing for August 26th. The second one is the free resource download. And then the last one is the quote. So kind of reverse here. But yeah, it's that simple. Honestly, the caption and the graphic can generally be very simple. The idea is just to have something that is, in line with your branding, your colors, your logo. Just stay consistent with this, but it doesn't have to be anything very complicated.
And I think what's important here that might be a little bit confusing depending on how familiar the audience is with social media. In some cases, you're literally putting the entire text in the post, like the one on the far right, the quote, that obviously has the whole quote in it. But these other two posts, the blog on the left, the free resource in the middle, you can't see it here, but that caption from the last screen, that would be like if this was an Instagram post, that text would be kind of down below the graphic. If this was a Facebook post, what you see on the screen right now would be the graphic you would see, and then that text would be below it, in the post. So in some cases, you're actually putting your exact text in the graphic. In other cases, you're just creating a graphic to accompany your post. But look, there's multiple ways you could do this, but we're telling you like this flow has worked really well for us, right? Hopefully it's kind of coming together for you guys, right? Because you're starting first with kind of bare bones, like what direction do I want to go? I want to promote some free resources. I want to share some blogs. I want to share some testimonials. I want to share some quotes. Then you're finding those quotes, you're finding those testimonials, you're picking those blogs. If you haven't already written them, you obviously need to write them. And then you're creating your text, and then you're creating your graphic to go with it. So we've just found that flow to work really well. And as a little bonus tip as well, if you're DIYing this, a lot of people have heard of Canva, but if you haven't, Canva, Canva, Canva is a great platform to create graphics just like these.
Yeah. Yeah, that's more examples. Just for you to see a little bit what an Instagram grid can look like with just that consistency as well in branding, which I think is one of the important.
Yeah, that's what stands out to me is the branding consistency. Yep.
Yeah, it's really a small, a small strategy nugget that we can give you is like when you're creating social media graphics, like if you're not really good at it, keep it simple so that you can remain consistent in your branding.
Well, and also too, I don't know if anyone's kind of seeing this, looking at these, but also you can also template your graphics a little bit, like that blog graphic at the bottom middle, right? That's actually a different blog post on there now. What we did is we changed out the photo, and we changed out obviously the text to be the title of a different blog. But you could in some cases template your graphics a little bit, and do that. The one on the bottom left, it's a quote graphic. You could replace the quote in the picture every time. So those are also a few little hacks that you can do. There's really not a downside. It's not like anyone who's looking at your social media content is going to be like, oh, I can't believe, that their two quote graphics look the same, right? There's a lot of stuff where it's like, if it looks great, rinse and repeat. There's nothing wrong with doing that on social media.
Yeah. And on the contrary, actually, just to bounce back on what you're saying, I don't know if you guys follow Forbes, but it's super obvious that Forbes is the one sending you those quotes on the black, screen and just the white font. Mm-hmm. And I actually think it is a huge advantage if some of your branding is recognizable. So use templates, do it.
Love it. So basically, this is our last slide for social media, I think, and then we'll kind of move on. But so this is basically what the finished product looks like, right? When you actually post the graphic. We probably can't zoom in while we're on a slide. I don't know if Janet can figure that out, but you can.
I'm not that good.
But hopefully you guys can see, like, if you look at these posts, you can see above or below them is the actual text, is the actual caption to go with it. And I know we want to keep moving just from time's sake, but Fanny, can you tell us anything real quick about some of the best ways to actually publish the content? I think we typically recommend using some sort of like third-party scheduling app. Can you just talk about that real quick?
Yeah, that's really the best. So whatever you decide to choose, I'll say we know Zoho Social very well, highly recommend it. What you're going to do is you're either going to just publish the day off, but what I highly recommend is that you actually schedule, and some of those tools will really allow you to schedule way ahead in time. So you're going to be able to basically schedule on each channel. You can do it separately, but if you want to gain time, it's actually possible to just schedule on each channel at the same time, just one graphic, one caption, and it will go on all of your channels. I think that is a great way to get started. And then if you want to be more, you know, in the little details and you want to have a link in bio on Instagram and stuff like that, you can separate them as well. So one of those tools is wonderful. It would allow you to choose the time, the date, how it's going to look, and basically you don't have to think about it another time.
Yeah, I mean, look, let me say this before we move on. I mean, look, when you guys see other businesses posting on social media every day, most likely they're not actually creating content and posting it every day. Like, they're not necessarily creating the content that day and posting it. Now, there are exceptions, and the most common exception is if that business has a full-time social media person, right? Spotlight Branding has a full-time social media person for our marketing. Every time I walk past Mike's desk, you might have met him if you were on our last webinar. Every time I walk past Mike's desk, he's on his phone, and I have to remind myself that he's working, right? Because he's on social media. But in all seriousness, the beauty of this strategy that we're giving to you guys is that you can sit down and do this, you know, kind of all at once for whatever period of time you're looking at. You might do this once a week, and you can sit down, go through your blueprint, figure out what you want to post, create your graphics, go to a scheduling app like Zoho Social or Hootsuite, schedule it for the week, and then you're kind of done with social media for that week, at least the content part. We'd obviously would encourage you to pay attention to comments and things like that. Maybe go engage some people on social media. But in terms of your content, this isn't something you have to do every day, you know?
Yeah.
Alrighty, so next up, we're going to talk about blogging. Again, we're going to talk about blogging, then we're also talking about video, and then don't sleep on this. We're going to talk about email newsletter at the end. And in my mind, we saved the best for last. And the reason I'm telling you guys this now is because still today, when I get into conversations with other businesses and definitely attorneys, email newsletter is the one that still surprises everyone just how effective email marketing can be. So I really want you guys to hang on and make sure we talk about, or make sure you stay for us talking about email newsletter at the end, because it is probably the best ROI of any content marketing there is still, believe it or not. So we got blogging, video, and email newsletter coming up, but let's talk about blogging real quick right now. So 4 main points. We got some bonus tips, but 4 main points I'm going to go over real quick, and then kick it to Fanny to dive through it. So first thing with blogging, it might sound obvious, but is to choose your topics. We'll talk a little bit how to do that. And then this is honestly a lot like school. Remember when you used to write an essay and you would outline your key talking points? This is not as hard as writing an essay. These can be a lot shorter, 300, 400, 500 words, but outline your key points. Then you obviously write the blog. We'll give you some tips for that. And then just like social media, you schedule it or you publish it. More times than not, this is going to be right on your website. But Fanny, dive in and show us a little bit about what it looks like to actually do this.
Yeah. Jenna, if you want to go to the next one. All right. So choosing your topic doesn't need to be complicated. Just think of the most common questions you're getting at the office from, you know, people that are giving you a call to figure out what you're doing or how you're doing it, or that are going through a divorce and they want to figure out, you know, their the schedule for their children. You know, like literally just take the most common questions you're getting and start answering
it. Especially in consultations. Mm-hmm. Or another way to think about this, so think about the questions you get, or think about the situations your clients are often in, right? So if you're a tax attorney, you know, a great blog topic is, you know, I just got a letter from the IRS. What now? ? Right? Mm-hmm. So it's the actual questions they have, or it's the situations that they're in. You know, what we typically do at Spotlight Branding is we ask our clients kind of the prompt that we just gave here, and we kind of identify some possible topics, and we've got some examples up here. It looks like these are all about family law and divorce, right?
Yeah, it's for the same clients.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. Yeah, this is a real example.
It's a real example of one of our clients. The topics here are from a QCI, which is what we have a conversation every 3 months with our clients, just talking about topics that we can, you know, discuss.
And I also want to point out that when you're doing a topic brainstorm, whether it's with yourself or your team or whomever, we're not suggesting you actually come up with the title yet. You could, but I think that's a step later when you get into the outline. With the topics, you're just really identifying like what is that thing that I could talk about, right? And the truth is, with any of these topics, and this is kind of a hidden tip. It's not really on our slides today. With any of these topics, there at the top, really there's 4, 5, 6, 10 blog topics within that topic. So we talk about contentious divorce. What about it? Like, what about contentious divorce, right? We could talk about, which is what we have here, which is 3 pieces of advice during a contentious divorce, right? But we could also talk about how to avoid having a contentious divorce, how to handle a contentious divorce, how to win a contentious divorce. I know you can't say that. I'm kidding around. No one go in the chat and tell me that. I know we're not allowed to promise results, but the point is there's a lot of topics even within these that you can talk about. But I recommend, doing this whatever cadence you want. Honestly, we find blogging once or twice a month to be typically plenty from a marketing strategy standpoint. And so a lot of times you might even only have to sit down with yourself or your team once a quarter to actually brainstorm topics. And then you can decide what the 3, 4, 5 topics are you want to do for the month. But Fanny, the next step basically is to outline it. Our writers have the luxury of actually having an interview with the client where they're basically creating this outline a little bit more in real time, right? But what would it look like for someone to kind of do this on their own?
Yeah, if you're going to do this on your own, it could, I love what you mentioned earlier, like 1 and 2, for example, you could have so many angles. Number 3, it's like, I'm already seeing the angle I'm going to go at. So maybe you're going to see very clearly your outline, maybe there's going to be one topic and exactly what you're going to talk about. Then in that case, go ahead and organize that, organize your thoughts into several, paragraphs. Basically, they're going to be paragraphs, so several ideas. And then if you have no idea what you're going to do, you could do a little bit of research as well and like figuring out what best angle.
I don't think they will. Honestly, in my experience, I actually think the outline might be a surprise to a lot of people. I know that most of you out there, once you've identified the topic, you could just start writing. Let me tell you why I'm a big believer in an outline. Number 1, I think you're just going to write, and this is really the only reason, I think you're going to write a better blog if you outline, because what you're doing is you're deciding what the main things are you want to say. If I was to sit down with any one of you and say, who's a family law attorney, and say, all right, what do I need to know about a contentious divorce? Like you could just start talking, no problem. Lisa, who was kind enough to chime into the chat out there in California, does copyright law, right? So Lisa, if you're doing a blog about trademark infringement, copyright infringement, right? It's probably not hard for you to talk about these things. But from an outline standpoint, what I would suggest is come up with your 2 to 4 main talking points. Whatever your topic is, what are the 2 or 3 things that you really want to make sure you say? The blog is going to read better to the audience, okay? And also from a title standpoint, I love things that it's like 3 tips for this, or the one thing to do, or the one thing not to do. And then the second reason this is beneficial is because I think you'll find that the writing is actually faster when you've identified your 2, 3, 4 main talking points, right? It's just like school. You create a little intro paragraph, and then for each of your talking points, 1 paragraph, and then your closing paragraph. If you've got 2 talking points, 2 middle paragraphs. An intro and a conclusion, you've got 4 paragraphs. If you've got 4 main points, then you've got 4 middle paragraphs. Your intro, conclusion, you have 6. You don't need a lot of content for these paragraphs, 3, 4, 5 sentences. Most of you could probably get that out pretty quickly. And I think you'll see these blogs write themselves, and they're also going to read a lot better.
One thing you haven't mentioned, but I think it kind of goes with everything that you're saying, is that obviously you're writing this for your target audience. So do not start writing it for other lawyers. It's not an essay for law school. It's very much you're trying to answer a common question. So it shouldn't be hard to write those paragraphs.
And Lisa, I appreciate you engaging. I'm telling you, there's others out there that aren't, and now Lisa's going to get the benefit of it. But Lisa just made a great point in the chat. She said that she still has to organize her thoughts. but sometimes 3 points could be 3 posts. Lisa, I couldn't agree more, but I think the key to remember here is exactly, there's no rules. You could literally do like an entire blog about one thing, but what I would still suggest is, okay, so if you have 3 points you want to make and you're like, gosh, each one of these could be one post. Okay, great. So you pick that one thing. You still want to identify what are the 2 or 3 things you want to say about that thing, if that makes sense. So and if it doesn't make sense to you, at the end of the day, we're all also wired differently. So if you write differently and it comes to you differently, obviously do what works best for you. We're kind of giving you guys our blueprint, our approach, the way we typically look at things. But where Lisa made a great point is almost every individual point within a blog could be a blog post on its own. So it's really just whatever your preference is. I will tell you, there are times when clients are with us for a while, we do that. We might go back and grab a blog from a year ago that had 3 different key points, and we might go, you know what, we're going to grab this one point and we're going to extrapolate on that further. It is okay and actually a good idea to repeat topics and repeat themes. You just want to do it a little bit differently each time. But it's not like people that get to your website or check out your social media and see a blog post. It's not like they're going to go back and look up a blog post you wrote a year ago, right? So repeating topics and themes is definitely something worth doing.
Yeah. Okay. And social media, which I love because that's exactly right.
Well, I still feel like everything I said was not.
It was. It's all good.
Yeah. So real quick on that, and then we got to keep going. So a couple of things you can do to create social media posts from your blogs. Number one, you could actually pull out a quote or a standalone sentence from the blog. So you're done writing the blog. Is there 1 or 2 things you wrote in the blog where you're kind of like, I like that sentence, and then that sentence becomes your caption, and then you just follow it up with like, click the link to read more, right? But if you remember, the graphics for the blog post didn't have a bunch of text in them. The graphics for the blog post were just the title of the blog post, and even if you completely can't think of anything, even just posting that with the caption being, check out our latest blog about blank. Right? But if you want 3, that is 1. The first one is check out our latest blog about blank. The second one is find a specific sentence in the blog that you really like as a standalone sentence, kind of a teaser, and that becomes the second blog post. Then your third blog post is just a comment about the blog post. Hey, find yourself in XYZ situation, right? Who are you talking to? Literally think about if you were standing in front of that person right now and you wanted to tell them to check out your blog, what would you say to them? Hey, I actually have a blog post for people that are in XYZ situation. Like that literally could be your caption, right? I mean, you might wordsmith it a little bit. And then the last thing I'll say, we haven't brought it up yet, I meant to earlier, and this is helpful for the social media as well, is don't be afraid to use AI. Don't be afraid to use something like ChatGPT. You can actually give it your blog post. You can actually copy paste the blog post in there and say, create 3 social media posts for me from this. And you might like that more than anything else I just said.
Yeah.
So I keep misunderstanding Lisa according to the chat. But what Lisa just wrote is a fantastic point, and I agree with it. But we'll keep going. But I really appreciate you, Lisa. Thank you for engaging.
I got you, Lisa. I understood from the start. Those are great ideas. Here it's really just an example of that blog post. So you can see what we like to do for our clients is we like to bring up that branding once again, and we try to do a nice little, image at the top of the blog that kind of just has that name. And you know what? It's saving you time for your social media because sometimes you just resize that and that's your social media post. So I love doing that. Yeah, that's the final blog. So you see it really, once you have your outline, it's really just that one paragraph. And then we like to finish with a little conclusion. And here you can see one of the social media posts that we did for that blog. I'll say this is a level a little higher, so different than what Lisa was saying, but this is actually a carousel. And I really like those sometimes for blogs. Like it's a good change, of like just having that first page that tells you, hey, these are the 3 things. And then they give you the 3 things and you keep people a little longer on social media. Carousels work fantastic in terms of like just having people read and spend more time and getting all the information without sometimes having to click outside of the app.
Love it. Love it, man. I just think like I kind of teased this a minute ago, but or earlier on social media, but like also at the end of the day, like it's also okay just to repost something. Like if you can't think of something new to say about it, like you might have shared your blog on social media Tuesday at 2 p.m. and you know if you then share it again the following Monday at 10 a.m. like different people are going to see it, right? Like it's not often that people are like going to your social media page and like digging through all your posts. So I mean, sure, I think from a creativity standpoint and thing like that, it's nice to change it up, but like actually think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of businesses make, not just law firms, is whatever they post on social media, they just post it once, you know? And again, when I say just post it once, I mean, like you could post that thing again and you could change the graphic, you could change the caption. I mean, that would be ideal. But even if you don't have time to do that, it's also okay just to republish some stuff. Like that's very much okay. At Spotlight Branding, we actually, I don't know if you guys saw it, we kind of skipped over it briefly, but when we were showing you our blueprint for social media, we had 2 post types at the top that said weekly. And what that is we create one social media post that we repeat. We repeat it for 4 weeks because our cadence is monthly. So we create one single post that we do actually republish for that month. And then next month we create a new one, but that new one then does get republished 4 times. And that's very much an intentional strategy. So nothing wrong with doing that. And I would kind of keep that as a strategy in your back pocket. So, all right, ready to talk video FAQs?
Yeah.
All right. So video probably doesn't need a lot of convincing in terms of the value of it in your marketing. I think everyone's becoming keenly aware of how prominent video is becoming. You not only have TikTok, you have YouTube Shorts. And then also in general, I think most of us acknowledge that, and this is not true of everyone, but a lot of people would rather watch a quick video than maybe read a blog or something like that. And by the way, that's why we believe in doing all of this stuff, because you might have someone that prefers reading something. You might have someone that prefers watching something, whatever. So, you know, I think that from a content marketing standpoint, it's good to just check off kind of as many of those boxes as you can. But definitely more and more people are engaging video. At Spotlight Branding, we have gotten really focused on video FAQs. We kind of think that's the low-hanging fruit, if you will, of video marketing. We also find it to be the most valuable video for a law firm's marketing because more than anything else, your audience has questions. They're in some sort of legal situation. Video FAQs can also kind of make a connection, build trust because it's you answering a question, looking at the camera. We're all for commercial style videos and things like that. But we're going to show you how to create very basic video FAQs because as basic as they are, they're still very powerful when it comes to making you look like an expert and like building trust and credibility with your target market. So 5 steps for creating FAQs, much like the blogs. The first one is selecting topics. We'll give you some examples here in a minute and kind of and give you some tips on how to do that. The second one is going to be your overall setup for how you're going to film, and we'll kind of explain the complicated and simple options. Obviously, then you got to film. Then there's some post-production, which just means what do I do after I've filmed? All right, and we'll give you a few tips there. And then obviously the last step is publish it. Where do you publish it? What does it even look like to publish video? So let's go ahead and dive into that and tell people kind of what that looks like, Annie.
Yeah. All right, so to select your topics for videos, I think you can go a little further than blogs. Obviously, I think the more you can batch this, the better. So what I love to do is having about 15 questions ready. So here you have an example for one of our clients. That's actually their setup right on the side. So we'll talk about the setup right there as well. But for video FAQs, it's a little bit.
Oh, hey, and these are this is IP law, intellectual property. It's like we knew Lisa was coming today. We didn't, but there you go, Lisa. Feel free to screenshot this and make those questions your own.
And that's a really nice office and a really nice setup. There are other ways to do it, but yeah. So here you go. You have your questions right here. It's really same. Most common questions, most common situations your clients are in. You're trying to answer this. And the idea is you're not trying to do like a 3-6 minute video either. You know, you're trying to do something that is probably 1.5 minutes, maximum 2 minutes, so that you're straight to the point, just addressing the person that would have asked you that question. And you're really just trying to make them see your expertise while you're talking about subject they really care about.
Yeah, these are very conversational. So whether you have a fancy setup or not, point and shoot. You're looking at the camera as if a person just asked you the question, and you know, I honestly suggest not practicing a ton. I also, and I can't stress this enough, like, don't worry about uhs and ums, because when it comes to FAQ style video, I think honestly, your biggest win is you feeling natural and like whatever it feels like for someone to actually be talking to you. And obviously, when you're talking to somebody, you're not on a stage or a pulpit presenting with a microphone. And so in terms of FAQs, don't worry about being casual. Don't worry about having pauses. You know, and things like that. To some degree, that can actually enhance the video. I'm not saying that's true every time, but to some degree, subconsciously for the viewer, it feels more natural. It doesn't feel like I'm being presented to. It feels like I just asked you this question and you're sitting across from me answering it. Okay, so I really like for FAQs, the more natural, organic style. Fanny already commented on it. Topics shouldn't be intimidating, literally same as blogs. Just think about the questions you get asked, the topics that come up all the time, the situations your clients are in. Again, just got a letter from the IRS. What do I do next? Right? There's a video FAQ. AI can always help you with this as well if you need help. All right, what are we talking about next here with video, Fanny?
The setup. So once you have your questions, I think, you know, it can be a little intimidating to think, oh,
yeah, this is a fancy setup here.
This is a fancy setup. But it's possible, you know, I mean, you can pay a videographer, and actually let me start with the fancy setup because that's what we're seeing. So fancy setup is basically you look for a videographer in your region. You look at their work. If you like the way the videos look, you just get in touch with them and make them come for about 3 hours in your office. It can be in your office in an area like this that you really love. It can be in your, like, at your desk. As long as you have a background that is pretty clean and not too busy, that's really all you need to do. And then the videographer is going to come, do point and shoot for, we say 3 hours for 15 videos. Sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes it's a little bit more, but it doesn't even have to be a whole day. So I think I'm kind of busting some myths as well around this, that it needs to be a whole day and a whole thing, you know, it's like that's—
And this is if you're going to do kind of a shoot all at once, which yes, that's our format with kind of what we do with clients, you know, to some degree for obvious reasons, because we're not there every day to make an FAQ. So we got to kind of plan this ahead of time. But look, there's 3 things that come to mind for me. You already said them. I'm just going to sum them up. 3 things you want to make sure you get right if you're trying to have that like higher quality experience. Lighting, sound, background. Okay, you get those things. I mean, not that there's other things there are other things that matter, but usually you get those 3 things right, you're good.
Yeah.
But I want to present the opposite side of this. And Fanny, we kind of talked about this offline. You don't have to do videos this way. It's also okay to just pull out your phone and record a selfie video. Maybe a question just popped into your head at that moment. Maybe you just got done a consultation and you're like, man, what we talked about in there would make a great video FAQ. I'm going to pull out my phone and record it. The cool thing that social media has done, especially TikTok, Instagram, is ironically enough, it's kind of paradoxical, and I could probably do a whole webinar about it, but it's actually made it so that video production quality is not something that consumers necessarily like require anymore. Like, it used to be that if you put out a video that wasn't produced nicely, you're worried that that's going to reflect negatively on your firm. But we live in a different world now where I really believe if you're a law firm and you've got something valuable to say, that's what's going to matter. So this is really a personal preference thing, or what you have time for, or what you have budget for, or also just how do you want to go about doing it. If you want to be a little bit more, I'm creating content as it comes to me, then you might just want to pull out your phone and film, and we'll still show you next steps with what to do with that. Or if you want to kind of sit down and do this more intentionally, once a quarter, even once a year, which is what we do with our clients, we do this just once a year. And we create 15 videos and we use those throughout the year. Then you could kind of do this more kind of sophisticated approach. But I just want everyone to hear that like either is okay. For every argument someone can make for one over the other, an equal argument can be made in return. So just kind of do what makes sense for you, and what, most importantly, do what's going to help you to get it done.
Yeah. And to your point, Mark, I think also video FAQs have a huge advantage is they're going to make you feel more approachable to your target audience, so that you're filming with your phone is also going to happen with that. You're not losing one of the goals from video FAQs.
Yes. And do not script. Like literally, like Lisa, you're out there. I bet all of these questions on the screen right now, like if we brought you onto this webinar right now, I bet you could intelligently answer these, right? I'm sure there'd be some uhs and some ums, but it isn't like you have to go do a bunch of prep. And guys, I have sat through dozens of video shoots for law firms, and I'm telling you, without fail, the ones that script sound worse. They do. And they take forever because they didn't say the thing the way they had written it and planned to say it. So, I'm sure there's an exception or two out there that scripted it and it was great. But for the most part, think about the one or two points that you want to say, just kind of like you would if you were writing a blog, but then just dive in and talk about it, whether it lasts 30 seconds or 2 or 3 minutes, that's fine. So Fanny, what, Lisa said she might put us to sleep.
Yeah, if you keep it short and sweet, you shouldn't.
That's fine. Yeah, if you're boring, Lisa, just keep it to 30 seconds. All right. No. In all honesty, you got to remember the video FAQs aren't about entertainment, though, and I appreciate Lisa kind of chiming in. I'm sure half joking, half serious, but no. The truth is that with your video content, you got to think the people that are watching it are people that actually have this question, right? Or someone that knows somebody that might have that question. They're not looking to be entertained. They're looking to be informed, right? So as long as what you're saying is valuable, you'll be fine, but keep it to whatever length works for you and feels good for you. All right, we got to move a little bit quickly here, but what are kind of the next steps with video? So we have recorded content, right? So now what, Fanny?
Yeah.
Do we have another slide or no?
Yeah, we do. Now it's post-production. I'll go really quickly on this. Post-production can be really simple as well. We don't put any fancy graphics or fancy music on them. What we usually do is we put a image of the question, and then we put some type of CTA at the end with your branding, and that's also the fancy way. You could just have your answer as a video. There's really not a huge need for a big amount of post-production. You still want to keep it very simple, very straight to the point, and making sure you're just answering that question. So post-production can be done through Canva, your video editor on your computer, if you do want to do that, intro, outro that I'm talking about, or if you want to keep it,
Yeah, it is optional. Like what you see on the screen here is we've just added a still graphic to the beginning of each video, right? That just has the question on it. And then if you were to hit play, it's going to just be the lawyer talking. And then to Fanny's point at the end, usually we just say something like, if you need more information, you can contact us at, and maybe you give your phone number or your website or both or whatever it might be. But that's an optional add-on. You certainly don't have to do that, right? Like you can do that more organic, TikTok style. I just pulled my phone out of my pocket. Listen, we got to move on, but I'll tell you guys, I follow a lot of salespeople, right? It's just a topic I'm interested in. I used to do sales for Spotlight Branding. As the owner, obviously we do a lot of our own sales. And like one of the guys that I follow the most on TikTok, this sales guy is in a t-shirt half the time. He's driving in his car, and he looks like he forgot to comb his hair. But the information he shares is so good, and that's all I care about. You know, so again, kind of choose your style. If you choose to work with Spotlight Branding, we'll make sure there's a nice background. We'll make sure you have a nice graphic like this. I think we have one more slide for video, right? And then we'll come in for our final topical newsletters.
That's the last one for video.
Okay, cool. We can move on to the newsletter. I want to mention real quick, I'm going to mention at the end as well, but just in case anybody does have to sign off early, and I hope you don't, because I told you newsletter is the one I'm excited about. But if anybody does have to sign off early, wanted to let you know for the attendees today, we are doing a promotion though. If anyone does want to learn more about our services, we are actually offering free videos. So what we've kind of shown you here, if you were to decide you wanted to work with us, whatever services you do with us will include our video FAQ service for free. Jana will drop a calendar link in the chat. Just got to book a call with us by the end of the month, right? So by September 30th. And there's no commitment if you book that call. Okay, that booking a call is just to chat with us to see if you want to work together. But as long as you book it in the next weekish or so, week and a half, 2 weeks, and if you decide to move forward with us, we'll give you video for free. So just want everyone to know about that since we were talking about video. But let's move on. Let's talk about how to do a newsletter, and we'll go from there. So. No, all good. So we got 2 parts for newsletter. Okay, told you guys I'm excited to talk about this one. Let me just say this before we unpack this, okay? Guys and gals, everyone out there, email marketing still works. Hands down. Hands down, the greatest ROI every Spotlight Branding client has is their newsletter. And it's not rocket science why. It's because with one click of a button, you stay in touch with your entire network. And depending on the content, and we're going to show you that in a second, with that one click of a button, you not only stay in touch, but you remind everyone what you do. And what this does is it makes sure that no one forgets about you. It makes sure that you're top of mind when someone does have a need or has a referral. All right. My favorite story, and you've been with us before, I've told it before, but it's the perfect example. We had a client who met someone on an airplane, and a year later, this guy calls him up and becomes a client. And the only reason was because the newsletter, because they never really talked after sitting next to each other on an airplane, but they did exchange business cards, and our client made sure to add this guy to his email newsletter list. Okay, so it's one click of a button. You can stay in touch with your whole network, remind them what you do. So let's talk about how to do that, because it's going to be the best ROI from a content marketing standpoint that you could do. First thing is you got to choose your platform. Where are you going to send this from? Well, Fanny will explain in a minute what we mean by platform, but this is not something you're sending from your inbox. You're not sending it from Outlook or from Gmail. The second thing is you got to put together your email list, right? Which might seem daunting, but we've got some hacks for that. And then the final thing is you're going to create a template, kind of like a blueprint with the social media posts. You're going to create a template that you're going to reuse. So let us walk you through those steps real quick. And then we'll also show you how to put that together and send out your first newsletter. So Fanny, show us what you got.
Yeah, I mean, for the platform, I don't have anything to show you, but we use MailChimp, but you can use Lawmatics. You can use, whatever. There are so many platforms to this day that will make
Constant Contacts one. There's a lot out there, but just know that you want to use an email marketing platform, something that's meant for designing something nice, something that's going to track data, something that's going to hold your email list for you. This may be obvious in 2024. I don't know. Maybe I don't need to say it, but you do need to find an email marketing platform. Again, if you have no idea what you're doing here, MailChimp's a great place to start. They have a free option. And everything we're showing you right here, we do in MailChimp. So, you can kind of know that that's a good place to start. But yeah, Fanny, talk to us about the idea of kind of creating a template and how they might do that and what some directions are for that template.
Yeah, so the idea of the template is a little bit the same as what we were discussing with social media. You want to have that branding consistency. You want something that looks nice in people's inboxes. So what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that your newsletter looks a little bit like your website. And so you have this kind of like brand experience that you keep giving to the people that are receiving information about your brand. And then what we love to do in newsletters is we just pick and choose. It's a sort of blueprint as well. We just pick and choose the key ingredients that we want to have in there. So usually what you're going to find in a newsletter that we think is very effective for law firms is that little intro message. So that's the one you see under the.
And Fanny, real quick, this just so everyone knows, this is one newsletter you're looking at right now, right? We've sliced it in half and put it next to each other. So you got a top and a bottom.
Yeah, that's correct. In your email, as you would receive this, you would have to scroll. Obviously, it's only one scroll, one to the other. So it's one of the bonus we had put of like, be mindful of the length. I think you don't want something that people are just going to scroll through. Like, people don't read emails that are super, super long either. So keep it short. And you have your intro. That's where you can put your firm announcements, like all the really important things that you want people to hear about. Then you have your blog. You can have a video in there as well. In this case, we don't have a video there, but you could have a video. You can have a quote of the month. You can have like a VIP referral box for like people that are especially receiving your newsletter and you want to make sure that they're connected to you through there. You can have plenty of things in there. I think just pick and choose about 4 to 5 elements, and in those elements, for sure, you need to have a piece of very valuable information, either a video or a blog, your practice areas, and a sort of contact info. This way, in that newsletter, people are reminded of what you do, they get the value from your content, and they also exactly know where to contact you and just get in touch with you.
Love it. And before we move on to the next, that's perfect too, because here's another one, same concept. But before we kind of move on to talking about your email list, a couple of things I want you guys to know. Number one of the benefits of using a platform like MailChimp or Constant Contact is they have the ability to go in and visually build something like what you're looking at. They have what we would call a visual editor, meaning you can actually go grab a template and you can add your logo, you can change the colors, and you can create these sections right there inside of that platform. The other thing is, Fanny just said, create these 4 or 5 seconds. I want you to note that 2 or 3 of them will get updated and the other couple are static. So having a section like with your contact info or your practice areas, like that's not going to have to change every time. But having like an introduction and a blog, you would change those every time. But that's also all you need. One of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make is thinking that their newsletter either has to have a lot of content or it has to be new content. Neither are true. A newsletter can be short and reuse content you already have. So if you're already creating a blog or you already have videos, go ahead and feature your latest blog in the newsletter. Go ahead and feature one of your videos in the newsletter. And all you're doing every time you go to send one of these is you're changing the blog, you're changing the video, and you're adding any news or announcements if you have any at the top. And if you don't have any news or announcements, that's fine. Just say, hey, thanks for checking out my newsletter this month. If you know anyone that needs help protecting their ideas through trademark or patents, please send them my way. And that could be your intro and that's it. But if you have a new hire, you have an event coming up, you have any news or announcements, throw that in your introduction. But the point is, you're not having to really create any original content for your newsletter. You're just creating this template for yourself and you're replacing the content each month. So, Fanny, real quick, 30 seconds, any tips for aggregating their email list? I know there's some ways that you can actually, like, if you don't already have this organized in a CRM or something, there's some ways you can actually like download all of your contacts like from Outlook or from Gmail, right?
Yeah. From your emails, just export. That's usually called like a contact export. Just export that, import it in whatever platform you've chosen. One of the great things that has existed on this planet as well is API key connections, which means, without going too much into details, is if you have a website that has some forms in there and people put their email in there, you can connect it to MailChimp, for example, and automatically every person that puts their email into your website will start receiving your newsletter, which is lovely. Highly recommend that. But yeah, that's the easiest way. Just export all of your contact. You also don't need to start with a huge list. It's okay to start with, 50 people if that's what you have, friends,
absolutely,
family.
But I will tell you, if you've only got 50 or 100 people on your email list, go into Outlook, go into Gmail. You can download a CSV, a spreadsheet of every person you've ever emailed. And more often than not, it's okay to send your newsletter to every single one of them. They can unsubscribe if they don't want it. There might be a few people you want to pull out, especially if you litigate, and you have the other party on your email list. Maybe you want to pull them out, or maybe you won and you don't want to pull them out because they know that you did a better job than their lawyer. I don't know, but there are some hacks you can do. Also, if you do have a CRM, you're just going to be able to integrate your CRM with your email marketing platform, and they'll just sync up. So like if you have Clio, for example, you could integrate that with MailChimp. And so all your contacts would come over into MailChimp and things like that. All right, I know we had a couple last comments we want to make about newsletter. We can jump to that slide. I already mentioned this, but the beauty of this plan is that we recommend doing this like once a month, maybe twice a month. But every time you come in, you're just going to fill your newsletter with existing content, right? You're not having to create new content. A couple other little tips. We think that the subject line should match your blog title. So, in our blueprint here, we're including a blog in the newsletter, right? And so if you just take the title of that blog and you make that the subject of the newsletter, the benefit of that is that even if people don't open your newsletter, they're still seeing your name and they're still seeing the subject line. So they're still being reminded of your firm, and they're being reminded of what you do because they see that blog title in the subject line. All right. And then, of course, last thing, keep adding to your email list, right? I told you the airplane story, right? You go to a networking event and maybe you only get 3 or 4 business cards. Put them on your email list. They can become referral sources. They can become clients down the road. Again, we see it all the time. Email and newsletter by far and away best ROI in content marketing still in 2024. Fanny, any final thoughts?
Yeah, just a little bonus here. Don't get too caught up in email analytics. And obviously Mark kind of touched base on that, but it's like your opening rate. Yeah, it's great to look at it, but at the same time, if people are not opening your email, it doesn't mean they're not being reminded of what you do and who you are. So trust the process. Sometimes it takes time. And it's okay to look at analytics, but don't get too caught up in them.
And here's just a couple more examples of what an email newsletter can look like. It follows the same structure, but you've obviously got a different design. So
yeah, and the difference basically with the ones that we showed you earlier is like the first one was a template. You had Lorem Ipsum text and stuff like that, and these ones are full with actual content. So
yeah, these ones actually have the blog or have the video. So perfect. We can jump to the last slide. I already mentioned it before, but if anybody, I'm sorry, I did have this. That's right. Obviously, we're running low on time, so out of respect for everyone, I'm going to wrap up here in a minute, but I'll give you 15 seconds on this slide. And if you want the slides, by the way, you throw your email address in the chat and let Jana know, and she can send them to you. We're happy to do that. But one of the things about content marketing is sometimes the results are a little bit hidden. For example, someone's not necessarily going to call you and tell you that they have a referral for you and it's because of your newsletter. But if you're doing content marketing correctly, you will see referrals go up. You will start to attract higher value cases because your content marketing is branding you as an expert. So the ROI of content marketing is not in likes and followers and people finding you through your content. The ROI is actually in generating more referrals, attracting better clients, higher paying clients, and the fact that content marketing actually makes other marketing efforts work better. Because no matter where somebody comes from, whether they met you at a networking event, found you online, or you do run something like Google Ads or something like that, no matter where somebody comes from, they're going to interact with your content. So your content marketing actually makes other stuff work better. So the ROI isn't always directly within the content marketing itself. So this is just a little cheat sheet of some of the places you'll see content marketing show up in your bottom line. Again, if this is something you would like help with, it is what we do. So we'd love to hear from you. No obligation. Just go to spotlightbranding.com/schedule. And that free video offer goes to the end of the month just for webinar attendees. But listen, we do these because we want to teach you guys how to do what we do. And whether you do it with us or you do it yourself, we just hope you do these things because we know they work. And so we hope that you got value from this. We hope that you're inspired to go do some of this. And certainly if you want some help or you'd like us to take a look at doing it for you, go to spotlightbranding.com/schedule, grab a time. It's a free consultation, and we'd love to connect with you. So appreciate everyone joining. Please feel free to send any feedback to Jana with a J, Jana at spotlightbranding.com. Jana puts all of these together, and your feedback is everything to us, positive or negative. We want to know if you got what you wanted out of this. We want to know what you want next. So let us know how we can make these workshop experiences great for you. And that's Jana with a J at spotlightbranding.com. And Fanny, great job. Fanny's been part of our team for years, but your webinar debut, I think it went great. Hopefully our audience does.
Thank you. I would like to thank Lisa for being the MVP of that workshop. That was really awesome. Thank you for participating so much as well and making it a great space for everybody else to try to chime in.
Yeah, Lisa gets a free pass forever to our free webinar. All right. Appreciate everyone out there. Thanks for hanging with us. Hope it was valuable. If you want to chat with us, go to spotlightbranding.com/schedule. We'd love to connect with you, see if we can't help you. But either way, again, hope you got value out of this. So thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Jana, for putting this together. And thank you, Fanny, for coming to hang out with us and taking time out of your busy day when you're trying to do this for all of our clients. So appreciate you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate everyone. Have a good day.